The murder of Tupac Shakur has been one of the biggest cold cases in hip-hop history, leaving hip-hop fans into creating many conspiracy theories, such as Suge Knight had him killed, the government had him killed, or he's out living in Cuba. After 27 years, the final living key eyewitness who was in the car that shot and killed Tupac was arrested in connection to his murder. Keefe D has been charged with Tupac's murder after openly admitting on record in multiple Vlad TV interviews that he was a person who gave the gun to his nephew Orlando Anderson in the backseat, who killed Tupac at the red light. Just over 2 months ago, the Las Vegas PD raided his home, recovering external hard drives and audio recordings. But how did a hip-hop DJ accidentally solve the Tupac murder? DJ Vlad has arguably the most influential and early game-changing hip-hop platform, Vlad TV, which he started in 2006. Vlad has built a reputation over the year of being a culture vulture and a Fed who interviews many black artists coming from the streets, asking them very detailed questions about their criminal history that can possibly incriminate them. Considering he is a hip-hop DJ and hip-hop is rooted in black culture, he has earned tens of millions of dollars off the back of traumatizing yet impactful black stories, causing many people of color to voice their opinions of how he adds nothing to the culture but takes a lot. Vlad has lived up to his reputation by solving the Pac murder. However, since Pac was loved by the world and Vlad is not a gang member, people aren't viewing Vlad as a snitch because for him, it's journalism. Although Vlad admits he didn't want Keefe to go to jail for a conviction, it's really hard to believe because his Vlad TV interview with Keefe is what put Tupac's murder back on the radar for the Las Vegas PD. The real reason DJ Vlad did the interview was, "I'm just a huge Tupac fan. I love Tupac. All Eyes on Me is one of my favorite albums of all time. It would be hard to argue that Tupac is not the greatest rapper of all time. So my whole thing is, this is my favorite rapper, and here's a story that's unsolved. But like everyone in LA knows the story. It was like the worst kept secret in LA. So let's try and put it out there and bring it out to the public." Tupac got shot on the night of September 7, 1996, while leaving a Mike Tyson fight in Vegas. Death row was labeled with heavy blood gang member populations who didn't shy away from any trouble. After the fight, Tupac and his death row entourage ran into Orlando Anderson, Baby Lane, Keefe D's nephew, who was a member of the Southside Compton Crips, and they beat him up senselessly. Keefe D, who was at the fight, will get wind of the beatdown story of his nephew and bring a few more gang members to go and retaliate, looking for Pac and Suge, driving around in hopes for the get back. When they left the arena, Tupac and Suge were driving, headed towards Club 662, and some girls saw them on the road and screamed Tupac, which led to Orlando Brown and his crew, who was spinning the block of the MGM Arena looking for Pac. Keefe was in the car with 3 other associates and passed a gun to his nephew in the back seat, and he dumped shots into the black BMW Tupac was in at the red light, which later killed him. As a veteran journalist, Vlad grabbed multiple people telling their different perspectives of the Tupac murder and investigation, which solved the murder in a series of 3 interview guests. The first responder, Chris Carroll, Keefe D, and the LAPD officer, Greg Caden. Sergeant Chris Carroll was the last person to speak to a conscious Tupac Shakur and the first responding officer at the Tupac murder scene. It was after the fight. It was busy. I was on my bike, and over the radio, some officers came out saying there were shots at the corner of Flamingo and Caval. It was a Mike Tyson fight night in Vegas, which only happened 3 times a year, and to the residents of Las Vegas, according to Chris, it was as big as the Super Bowl. The fight generated a lot of attention and brought out celebrities and a lot of out-of-towners from California, in which, oftentimes, gang members would get into conflicts because they would all run into each other and want to settle scores. Hence the reason MGM had so many police officers. There were vehicles fleeing the scene. The police were chasing the death row cars, who were on the way to the hospital. However, since the shooting happened so quick, Vegas PD wasn't aware of who were the assailants and who were the victims, and just followed whoever they saw, skirting off leaving the scene, which was Suge and Tupac driving the black BMW 7 Series. Coincidentally, nobody even chased the white Cadillac that Keefe D and his nephew were in because they fled the scene before law enforcement got there. I knew one of these cars were involved in the shooting, but I had no idea who anybody was. Chris details the car chase of his fellow officers following Suge Knight's car that brought them right towards him, in which the car gave out, spinning out at an intersection. We really ran into each other. I laid down the bike. Tupac's car spun out of control at the intersection. Soon as the car stopped, the doors popped open, and everybody kind of jumped out to see what was going on, and I put out my gun. Chris described this atmosphere as mayhem, as there were so many people running and scrambling everywhere. There were about 8 to 10 guys of the death row entourage following behind Pac. Chris was telling everybody to get out of their car, but he was very concerned because he was outnumbered. They looked like gangsters, tough looking dudes. I ordered them all to get on the ground, and some did, and some didn't. Then I could see them looking at each other. Are we gonna listen to him? Are we gonna run? Honestly, I wasn't sure what to do either. Carol went person to person trying to find answers on what took place, and everyone got outside of their car and started complying to his demands except Tupac, who was still in the car. His initial thoughts were, this is going to be the man that's trying to shoot me, because why is he still in the car? He has every access available to him, I can only see him from above his shoulder, and who knows what he has or is planning to do. I came up to him, yelling at him to open the door. When I came up to the car, I could see that there were bullet holes on the sides of the door, right around the handle, right in front of the passenger side of the windshield. I grabbed the car door to pull the car open, and I think the bullets being in the close proximity of the handle somewhat disabled the mechanisms of the door handle. I couldn't get it open. After prying the door open, he asked the dying Tupac, what happened? Who shot you? Who did this? And Pac, using all the air left in his body, with a few seconds left of consciousness, said, F you, and then he lost consciousness and died. With Chris being a cop, he was deemed a credible witness, and he was the only Vegas police officer who could recall the series of events from start to finish. Greg Kading would be the second and most crucial piece in solving this murder. The retired LAPD officer would catch Keefe D running a drug ring that would get him life in prison if convicted, and in exchange for his immunity, he agreed to a proffer agreement where he retold his crew's involvement in the Tupac murder, a story he told publicly on Vlad TV. Now, proffer agreement means queen for a day, so anything he said to Greg Kading on that day can't be used against him. The proffer agreement gave Keefe a false sense of immunity because he went on platforms like Art of Dialogue and Vlad TV, retelling the same stories which now can be used against him.
When he goes outside of that agreement, that information is all there to be used, should a prosecutor choose to do so. So when he's gone outside of this law enforcement environment where he has been given this agreement, everything else is up for grabs. So everything that he's said in books or on YouTube channel, multiple interviews, that's all information that can absolutely be used against him and should.
The audio for the proffer agreement leaked years back, which caused confusion of why the police waited so long to indict him, with that being leaked and these interviews of Vlad being out for 4 or 5 years. There is no statute of limitation for murder, and Keefe D self-incriminated himself as an accessory to the Tupac murder. I pulled out the Glock that Zip had given me and tossed it into the back seat. Bubble Up did the driving, and Babyland and Freaky were riding in the back. Keefe described the altercation with Suge Knight as two rams locking horns. One of my guys from the back seat grabbed the Glock and started busting back. The streets of LA, let alone anyone who was morally following this murder case, know who killed Tupac. The murder of Pac caused a wide range of conspiracies, with one of them being that did he put a hit on Tupac for $1 million? 1996 was his 10th year for death row. Dre left the label, Snoop beat his murder case, and the East Coast vs West Coast beef was at an all-time high after years of brewing. This wasn't the first time Tupac got shot. Pac was shot in '93 inside Quad Studios, where he met to meet Biggie and Puffy, the people he held responsible for a shooting that put him in a wheelchair. These sequence of events all happened under Puffy's supervision. Allegedly, Puffy was well affiliated with a New York gang member named Zip, who was with Keefe D at the MGM Arena when they got the news that Death Row beat up Babyland, his nephew. And actually, Zip gave Keefe D the gun that was used to kill Pac and collect the bounty. It's been widely rumored that Puffy paid Zip, the middleman, $1 million to get Pac and Suge killed. When Pac died, Zip never gave Keefe D the $1 million, which turmoiled the relationship. However, it saved Puffy from being indicted on conspiracy to commit murder charges. Towards the end of the 90s, Puffy quickly became the most hated record label exec in hip-hop. He was believed to have played a role in Tupac's murder, and many people feel he set up Biggie to die as he made a killing off his publishing. Keefe D has yet to have a positive relationship with Puffy, and according to him, they haven't spoken in 27 years, being after the murder. He feels Puffy owes him money because him and the Compton Crips gave them protection from Suge and Death Row when they were in LA. He truly believes he crashed out on Puffy's demands and was robbed of financial compensation. Puffy took my empire down. I wouldn't be involved in Tupac's murder if I hadn't met Puffy. The orchestrated interviews of DJ Vlad aligned all the lost puzzle pieces that will solve the murder of hip-hop's biggest artist. In the eyes of some, through journalism, Vlad solved a 3-decade-old murder, but in the eyes of others, it's just DJ Vlad being DJ Vlad, setting up his guest to portray an entertaining, self-incriminating story that will get him more richer and put his naive guest in jail.